Welcome to 2025. I hope you all had a great Christmas and a happy New Year, and I hope you got an opportunity to play some trains. As we go into 2025, one of our most popular videos last year was how to avoid mistakes building a model railway. Well, in this particular video, I'm going to talk about 5 design ideas that will enhance your model railway, and it will make the big difference between whether your model railway is a model railway or just a train set. So stay tuned. Okay, so design idea number 1 is turntables. Now, turntables take up a lot of room. As you can see, this turntable here has 14 rows on it, 14 stalls, and it depicts a southern New South Wales turntable area, like Junee or Cootamundra. It's not exactly the same. The turntable shed is modelled on Valley Heights up in the Blue Mountains of New South Wales. It's not exactly the same. It's a representation of what a turntable area in New South Wales would look like. Now, this is a 130-foot turntable. It has 14 notches for the table to go around. Comes with a controller like this. You can see here on the video, a controller like this. I can reverse the direction, and I need to press this button to start the turntable running. But a consideration for your layout is whether you have a turntable or not. It depends on how many engines you've got. Now, in my case, I'm fortunate enough to have over 50 engines, and this is only a representative sample of the ones that I have here showing. But if you can have a turntable, they represent prototypical running for many operations that you would see around a typical railway. And in the steam era days, you had to turn these big engines, they had to be turned around. This particular engine, which is an AD60 Garrett, can operate both directions, but a lot of the passenger express engines need to be turned around and returned back to either go back to Sydney or back to wherever they might have been going. So a turntable is a major consideration, but in the next part of this video, I'm going to talk about what is the alternative to a turntable. So you'll see now we've got the XPT now right in front of us, but it did come from the other side of Kingsview and it looped around behind the turntable and came back to this position. This is what's called a reversing loop. Now, where reversing loops are tricky is that this outside rail becomes reversed once the direction comes back 180 degrees. So with a DCC layout, you need to do some special things to be able to make this to work properly. When your reversing loop comes back around, one thing that you need to do is you need to insulate both tracks. Now, sometimes with DCC running, you only insulate one track, but with DCC, you insulate both tracks, because what we need to do right at this particular point is just as the train comes across here or the locomotive comes across here, we have to reverse the polarity. So we have to switch. We have to switch the polarities to positive and negative, negative to positive. As the train comes around this particular curve, which is the passing loop, at the start of this passing loop also there are two insulators as well. So this piece of track becomes basically isolated from the rest of the track, because as the track traverses 180 degrees, the inner becomes the outer and the outer becomes the inner. So underneath the layout, we use a special device called a auto reverser. So this particular piece of track is connected up to the auto reverser, and as it detects a train on here, it detects what the correct polarity for the track needs to be, and as it switches, it will switch the polarity back. So that's an important consideration for when you're building a reverse loop on your layout. So reverse loops, what's the real value of them on your layout? Well, what they do is that they provide the ability to turn an entire train around. So the turntable in the background, it can turn engines around and rolling stock, but it can't turn an entire train. So in this particular case, I've actually got both. I've got the ability to turn a train around, and I've got the ability to turn a locomotive around. So an important consideration, when you're designing a layout, have you got enough room to have a reversing loop on your layout so that you can actually turn locomotives and trains if you don't have the space for a turntable. Now, as I'm modelling HO gauge, you can see here my turntable takes up about 4 square metres, so it takes up a lot of space. So it is a big consideration, and you've also got to be able to make it so that you can get to it again. And you'll know in our previous video we talked about that hand-reaching distance. Anything more than about 900 mil is hard to reach. Now I can reach this one just, I can get up on a bit of a platform and I can get there. But if I ever design another layout, I'd make a turntable a little bit easier to get to. But certainly having the ability to turn your trains is a really important consideration in the design of your upcoming layout. So our next consideration for your new model railway is your goods yard. Now this yard here would be considered to be what's called a ladder yard. So it starts off with a main feeder track, and then you have tracks coming off a main feeder, so it creates like a ladder, and you can store all your trains in these particular sidings. Now you can have these sidings continue on and then join back together, or you can have them in this case where it's a terminus where they've got buffer stops at each end. But the important thing is that if you're going to build a town, like there is a town over here in the background, Davidstown, you need to be able to service that town with a good quality goods platform, and in this case you can see we've got a goods crane, we've got materials here ready to be loaded onto this flat wagon. We've got our farmers' milk trucks attached to the steam loco here, dropping off the milk for the town as well. So your goods yard is about creating a story on your railway, and that's distinct from a toy train set. Toy train set's about trains going round, round, round in a loop on the floor, dad or mum tripping over it, you have to pull it to pieces every night. Where once you've built yourself a model railway, these fixtures become semi-permanent. You can move things around, you can move your cars around or whatever. But this particular case where we've got Davidstown yard, it's servicing a rural community, and the goods trains come in here, drop off all the goods. There's a pub over there for the drivers to go and have a drink later on. There's a petrol station for them for the locals to fill up their cars. We've got a playground for the kids. We've got a motel. We've got all sorts of things here. We've got a little farm over here as well. So all of this creates the story of your model railway. So when you're thinking about planning a new model railway, think about the story and how it's going to work. And again, think about that 900 mil rule. So as you can see with my arm, I can just stretch to here. So dealing with some of these other things is a bit of a stretch. So always think about that in the process of designing your railway. But again, your goods yard is designed to service the town that it's adjacent to. So have a think about the industries that your town might have, and they're the things that you would want to place around your goods yard. So think about that in the planning, and get out a piece of paper and write down some of the things that you enjoy about the towns that you've seen or you've been to, or the areas that you're going to model, and that will help you design and get this goods area part of your layout designed exactly the way you want. So our final consideration in this video is, what sort of a layout do you actually build? Do you build a end-for-end layout where you have a start point and you have an end point and you terminate trains at each end? Or do you build a layout where you can go round and round and round? Now, that's a decision only you can make. Now, there's advantages to both. Realistic running, in reality, trains go from destination A to destination B. That's why you get on them. You get on at Sydney and you go to Melbourne, or you get on at Sydney and you go to Brisbane, or you get on in London and you go to Edinburgh, or wherever you go. You get on at New York and you go to Chicago. So the reality is trains go from point A to point B, but with model trains, you want to run your trains around so that you can keep looking at them. So in this particular configuration, this original part of the layout actually has two inner mains and they go around. It has a third inner main as well, which is considered to be a branch line, and the outer main goes all the way around, and it can loop back on itself and come back and terminate over in the goods yard, which means that you can run point to point, or you can run trains around and around. Now, I like to do both. I like to sometimes run prototypically, where I run a train from the goods yard, I run it around, I do a couple of laps, and then I take it back in and I build up another train as well. Or I can run inner main trains around, and I can run a branch line train. So I've got the choice to do all three. Now, you may or may not be able to build a layout with that kind of versatility. So what's best for you is what you can afford to build and what you can fit in the space that you've got. I'm very lucky to have a very large room here, which is about 9 metres by 7 metres, which is about 650 square feet, or 50 odd square metres, or whatever it adds up to be. But certainly picking the right plan right at the start is a key consideration to building your model railway. So I hope you found this video of interest. Please like and subscribe if you find our content interesting, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.